by not telling my story, I kind of rob God of the glory. A couple years ago, it just came out of nowhere and kind of caught me off guard. And then I kind of tracked it back to the past. What else is back there that I may have not really dealt with that affected it now? Kind of dive deep into what my story was about and how it affects my present day.
You definitely have some limited beliefs that people wouldn't understand you or accept you if they knew your full story. And that affected a lot of your relationships. So being able to tackle that and dive into that trauma and heal it has definitely made a difference.
So for us to tell our story is gonna require us to dive deep. So this is gonna be a doozy. So buckle up. How you doing? I'm Sam,
Cindy.
and we are the Dorvils. You could tell we're very imperfect with our first episode in our introduction, but that's okay. This is something that we kind of wanted to do for a while now. So we're kind of excited about it. Hopefully, you guys get some value out of this. I think we definitely bring a lot of life experience to the table. So, if you don't mind, just tell people what is Real Life Remix all about.
Well, just as the name implies, it's about real life. We're going to bring you stories about our marriage, our kids, our dog, our fostering journey, infertility, our business, financial struggles, successes, lessons learned, whatever comes to mind, we are going to share it. And the remix part comes because we are obviously a mixed couple, mixed family. Our son is mixed. We have Haitian children through adoption. We'll be fostering. So, we have children from all different backgrounds. Our own backgrounds are very different. So we are quite a mix-up.
Yeah, I think because we are so different, sometimes we offer a different perspective. I know for me, I quite often provide a very different perspective because most people may have not, heard a story that looks like mine. But I think this was something that I was recently kind of wrapped my head around, and it was by not telling my story, I kind of rob God of the glory. And it was a couple years ago. Something just came out of nowhere and kind of caught me off guard. And then I kind of tracked it back to the past. And then I decided that what else is back there that I may have not really dealt with that affected it now. So it made me kind of really kind of dive deep into what my story was about and how it affects my present day.
You definitely have some limited beliefs that people wouldn't understand you or accept you if they knew your full story. And that affected a lot of your relationships. So being able to tackle that and dive into that trauma and heal it has definitely made a difference.
And I think let's kind of talk about what's going on with the kids.
We've had T-ball for the past month, and it's been exciting. They've been getting into it. This past week, the twins both got hits without using the tee, so every week we've seen some improvement. That's a big one. They're very excited about that. Our little guy was quite goofy this past weekend, so that was entertaining to watch. But he's having fun out there too. So just being able to be those sport parents, because we grew up playing sports, is something that we're enjoying.
Yeah, and that's actually something that we talked about in our bigger vision. It's just providing our kids with the most opportunity possible. and just kind of watching, how they excel in these different activities. We're big on sports, we're big on the arts, we're big on music. So exposing them to any and everything to see where their talent lies has been kind of fun to watch.
I think robotics possibly in the future for Isaiah,
Robotics,
or coding, computer coding. I think that might be his lane.
that they're
Kayla and Kaden are definitely involved in sports. I mean, after church yesterday, he went to go get lunch for us, but they just get right out there with the big kids on the field. They don't care how old they are, what size they are. They see a football and they want to jump in. So
it's hard. I'm a wrestling, football, boxing dad, so they see me watching it on my phone quite often, and so they're asking all the time about wrestling, boxing, and football. Love tackling, but the issue with that is they won't keep their hands off each other. Right? Not even for a little bit. So it gets
there's
interesting.
no quiet play.
Yeah. We'll go out somewhere and everybody will say, "Wow, they have a lot of energy." That's kind of, but it's fun. It's been fun to kind of watch them, get their hands dirty and actually, also excel.
Yeah, and although it's loud and energetic, and there's a lot of tackling around the house, they do all play very, very well together. So we are blessed that they love each other and have fun together.
Yeah, for sure. So let's so before we dive into our story, I had to I realized I went to therapy like 2 years ago, and I didn't even know I needed therapy, and that's something you'll hear me talk about. We talk about a lot. But um, what came out of that was nobody knew my story, right? And then I remember the therapist said, "Sam, the disconnect that happens with you and people is that no one knows your story." And I realized only you knew my story, right? So I might make complete sense to you, but not to everybody else. I guess it was so bad that not even my family really kind of knew my story, which is a different subject topic. But you could grow up in a home with all your siblings and have a very different experience. I'm sure you kind of experienced something like that as well.
Yeah, my sister and my mom don't speak very much right now, and that's been a sore spot for many years. But it was like hearing my sister's side of it. She really did have a completely different experience than I did, even though we were in the same house. So it is interesting to hear different perspectives. You'd think that if you're in the same house with the same parents and your parents are present, that you would have similar stories, but that is not the case.
Yeah. So let's dive deep. So how did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
My opinion of my childhood is very good. Small town, Wallingford, Connecticut, in New England. Um, Grew up playing outside a lot. I played sports. I did softball, basketball. Ended up doing volleyball in high school as well. Was outside all the time. I was lucky that it was a very safe place, and I could walk to my friends' houses. I could walk downtown, go to the candy store, like more of that idyllic childhood that unfortunately our kids these days don't get to have because the world is not as safe anymore. But I just had a lot of fun being outside, being creative, being active. When I was inside, I was very crafty. I liked to make like friendship bracelets, and I read a lot. I loved reading. I still enjoy reading, just don't have the time for it anymore. But I would say overall, my childhood was really good. In sixth grade, my parents did divorce, but I feel like I was always, I guess you would say, wise for my age. And I could see that they, although they're both great people individually, they were not great for each other. So I understood what was going on when that was happening, and my dad was always super present. He was coaching my sports and taking me to all my sports. So even though I was living more with my mom, my dad would call every single day after school and see how we were doing, and he was still super involved. So I didn't feel like that was really a negative experience for me, luckily.
How did that shift in the family dynamic affect you?
Um, I would just say it probably helped me when I was looking for a relationship in the future to make sure that I did not compromise on the things that I wanted in a partner.
Mhm.
I wanted to have a fun relationship where we could be loving and supportive and complimentary to each other and go out on dates and travel, and those were things I didn't really see from my parents. So it was something that I definitely wanted for my future.
Yeah, I'd say the same. You know, my parents, when they would go to kiss you, see, like, and you'd be like, "We like each other." That was just my perspective. I'm sure a lot of the family have a very similar experience where they may not see their parents really kind of, you know, interact or kind of operate like that. I remember when I met you, and we were living together, which is a different subject. Yeah, we'll see that after. But anyways, so your dad comes over, right? And I knew that they were divorced, but um, your dad came over. He just came to hang out, you know, came to kind of have a meal, and he was chill, and was uh, for me that was encouraging because wise beyond my years as well. I was like, if something ever happened, I know that she saw how to navigate a relationship post a marriage. Not saying that I was ever, entertaining something happening, but that was important to me because I've seen it opposite, right? And so in one of my past relationships, it was completely opposite where mom had really taken dad over the ringer and really twisted his neck and turned the kids against dad and stuff like that, and I know that really affected everybody involved, so that was kind of it was eye opening and also very good to see. It kind of gave me hope.
Even though he didn't want me together.
I did not, and that story is a very interesting one, but that's kind of where I was at. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't change it. Wouldn't change it for the world. So, what would you say your favorite memory was growing up?
Um, we didn't really take many vacations, but the one vacation that we did take that I remember, it was probably one of my favorite memories. It was just nice to have the family together. My grandmother came. We were on a lake. We called it Oodie Dog because the cottage actually smelled like wet dog. But we would go out on walks in the evening and look for bunnies, and we were just playing outside. We were swimming in the lake. We went out on a boat. Um, so that was one of my favorite childhood memories. That and just all the sport memories, being part of a team and just being successful on the team was a lot of fun.
So I remember when I met you, it was kind of like a breath of fresh air for me because I remember you were talking about a Christmas that you had. And the
Oh, yeah,
things,
Christmas was
it's,
my
and,
favorite
and,
thing.
yeah, the things that your dad or your parents would do, during Christmas. And then I remember watching this. on one of your videotapes, and I was just kind of like in awe because my upbringing didn't look like that. I don't have any um, Christmas videos or let alone any pictures of myself besides a few handfuls. So I thought that was a breath of fresh air.
Sam calls my mom over the top, but she is a very enthusiastic person, and as we as we show you more of Caden, you will see his personality, I would say, is similar to my mom, where he just gets excited about all sorts of things. So our holidays growing up were always very magical because my mom would make them so exciting. We'd decorate, we'd sing, we had music. Family always came to our home for holidays, so those were great memories as well.
Yeah, that was like I said, it was cool to see because that was kind of my first time being exposed to something like that, right? So and I think sometimes what happens when you do grow up so differently, you might yearn for something a little bit different or definitely something into the future that looks different than what you had, or if it was a great memory, you want to make sure that implement that into your relationship. So I think we've kind of done that, which has been.
Yeah, it's been fun trying to develop our own holiday traditions with the kids. Since he didn't have any growing up, that's something that we've been doing together.
Yeah, so I guess this is probably a good time for me to kind of dive into my story. Like I said, my story is very different, um, and um, and it provides a perspective that most people will never see or encounter. Um, so that's kind of why I thought it's important to kind of just share parts of my journey, parts of what how life looked like for me, growing up. So
Let's start from the very beginning. We actually got some new information just the other day from his godmother's son, something that we didn't know. So why don't we start at the
so we started. So I reached out to my godmother in Haiti. She has Alzheimer's, but I was able to get more information about a gap in my story. But what was told to me was she was with my mom. My mom had a very difficult labor, so much so that I wasn't gonna make it, and she wasn't necessarily gonna make it. And they told me how much they prayed and prayed and prayed, over us in hopes that we would get through this very difficult pregnancy. And luckily, that was kind of like how the story, how my story began. So my story is very rough, and it's taken me 38 years to be able to really tell my story for the first time. Like I said, it was like 2 years ago. Only you knew my story. Um, so I was born in Haiti. Third world country, is one of it's the poorest country on the Western Hemisphere. During the time that I was born, there was a revolution happening in the country. My father was part of the military in that country, and I think they were transitioning from a dictatorship to a democracy. And Haiti is not like the U.S. They have a lot of island justice, and that's kind of what was happening. So they were killing people that were part of the former government, which kind of included my father. I remember one story where my brother was telling me the story about it. There was like a big commotion in the crowd, and they grabbed one guy and then like stripped him down of his clothes, and then someone said, "Oh, my dad's one of them too," and they grabbed him, but someone recognized them, and said, no, he's one of the good ones. He's one of the good ones. So they kind of let him free. But there was just a lot of craziness, a lot of unrest going on in the country at the time. So um, my dad decided to make a plan with my mom to come to the States, and they they applied for political asylum, and that's kind of how we came into this country. But before that, I was in Haiti. Tell me the story. I was in Haiti, and a girl pushed me into like a pot of beans. In Haiti, it's very different. So they cook their meals and beans and stuff like that. It's on the ground. And apparently I was walking around, and then this girl, we were playing together, and then she pushed me. I fell in. It scolding hot. It was my right arm. Thank God, you see no trace of it. But when I fell in, it said the skin on my arm fell down all the way down, to my fingers, and um, my body went into shock, and they couldn't find a hospital. They went to one hospital, they didn't have enough beds, and then went to a second hospital, and they didn't have enough beds there. So my godmother was just holding me in her arms, and I died. It's not something I tell anybody about. It's not a memory that I have, but it is something that happens, and I think maybe subconsciously it definitely does affect me, because I know the importance of time, and I know the importance of how limited it is. So
And if you wanted to talk about a prayer warrior, she was it. So she was praying over him and was luckily able to find someone who could help. And like you said, you wouldn't even notice looking at his arm. There's no scarring or anything. And they were able to bring him back to life. So it is a miracle that he's here today. If you haven't already, please hit like and subscribe to get more of our videos.
like I said, we came here through political asylum. I remember one of my first memories. I was on a plane that was coming here to the U.S., and it was very memorable. I was sitting, it was me and my brother Mark, and we're sitting next to each other, and then I kept telling my dad, I was like, I want to see inside the window. He was just like, no. I was like, I want to see outside the window. And then um, I kept bothering him enough, and then he said, "Okay, you can see outside the window." And I looked outside the window, and then I threw up on him. And and I could imagine he was probably really mad then, because he didn't want me to see it, but I kept bothering him. So that's probably one of my first memories, and I have a lot of memories, and I'll share some of these with you. So that was probably one of my first memories, and I remember when we first got here, we slept with an aunt, and we slept on the floor. Um, and we were probably there for like a year or so, sleeping on the floor, coming to the country, and you're an immigrant. Life looks very different for you, and we found ourselves, in the middle of the hood. I mean, during the crack epidemic. So um, during that time, on our street alone, there was 5 drug houses on our street, and the activity. Anytime you have high drug use, you have high crime, and I saw it all. I don't think I was sheltered from really anything in my life. Probably the only thing that I hadn't seen, especially through my childhood, was murder, and I've seen several instances of attempted murder, which really affects the way that I may view people because I've seen people very, very different. And I'm still working my way through, luckily, the 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 great thing was we had our faith, we were people of faith. And I think that's probably the most stable thing that we had throughout, my childhood that I can probably reference and say, all right, this and the combination of having a two-parent system um, is what allowed me to be here today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it clearly caused you to build up a lot of walls just to protect yourself, and try to keep yourself safe. What would you say is one of the crazier things that you saw in your neighborhood?
Okay. I've seen a lot of crazy things, right? And I'll share a couple of stories with you. I just remember on Saturdays, we would be, my mom would leave the door open. The kids would be running in and out of the house on a Saturday and playing and stuff like that. And I just remember out of nowhere, a lady runs into our house, and she starts looking for a knife. And I remember me and my sister, excuse me, we hid underneath the table, and she couldn't find a knife. And my mom had a beans story, something about beans. We eat a lot of beans, maybe. But she grabbed the pot, and then as she grabbed the pot, another girl was about to run into the house. And I'm gonna apologize for cursing, but I really gotta take you into the memory. She whipped the beans around, and she was like, "Bitch, I'll burn you."
You said your mom had the pot.
No, the lady grabbed the pot. Yeah.
So,
No, I said my mom was cooking beans. All right. So if it wasn't clear, the lady grabbed the pot on the stove and whipped it around towards the other lady that was getting ready to run into our house, and and she was gonna burn her because the other lady had a knife in her hand. And when things like that happen, I just remember because I've seen several very serious and traumatic experiences like that. It feels like time slows down, and then there's like a buzzing, ringing sound in your ear, and everything kind of moves very slow. And it almost seems like what's happening doesn't even feel real, but it's as real as it gets. And a situation like that happened twice. Another time, a lady, it's a Saturday again. I feel like things seem to happen on Saturday. I think maybe because there was just more people home on Saturday. Um, so the activity was a little bit higher. So same thing, a lady runs into our house being chased this time by a man with a knife. And but this time my dad was home, and my dad grabbed his machete and kind of chased the guy away. And so those are just a couple, and I'll just share a few more.
well, I think also because of those experiences, as a child, you want your home to be a safe place. But when strangers are constantly around your home, trying to come in your home, you would say at night you see shadows walking in your backyard by your window. That takes away a lot of your safety, and that also affects, how you live and how you operate around people. Where we live right now, when we came in here, he said this is actually the safest I've ever felt somewhere because of experiences like that.
Yeah, I come into the country as an immigrant, having money out the labor, where you land, and that's kind of where we ended up. The best way to kind of describe the way I grew up was definitely 100% in survival, and also it was a jungle. You had to really pay attention to everything around you, and just kind of watch how life is moving, and you really couldn't you couldn't really relax, which I still have I'm better at it now, but I still have a hard time fully kind of relaxing and kind of just enjoying life and enjoying kind of where I'm at currently. Um,
Situations like that put you into the flight or freeze mode,
Mhm.
and for you, it was the fight mode.
yeah,
So that also affected a lot of things going into the future.
yeah, for sure. And also too, because I was from a different country, I dealt with a lot of bullying, um, very violent. Everything was it, the way I grew up was very violent. I remember this was if we go to the beginning, this was the third day of daycare, and I just remember walking to the daycare with my dad. I could barely speak English, and a kid just punched me in my face, and I equate that to that was kind of my welcome to America type of moment based on what else happened in my life, right? Because that was just the beginning. So another story that I'll share with you guys is, and I have a lot of them. I remember standing at the bus stop one day, and my back was to the street, and all the kids would come to the bus stop, and we would play football and different things like that, while we wait for the bus. And I just remember hearing a car screech, and then you hear the engine sound pick up, and then you heard the sound very distinct. It was, and I remember when I turned around, there was a car dragging this lady, and she was on her knees, and she was holding on to the car, right? And then this car blew past the stop sign, and she was still holding on to it, and then she um, finally let go, and then here comes the bus, and I remember. Um, I just remember, so the bus came, and then nobody really knew what to say. We seen different things happen in the neighborhood all the time, but we never seen anything like that. But those things kind of really stood out. And I remember that was one of several times where they sent the social workers out to talk to us, right? But you never know exactly how those type of experiences really impact you. Um, and I'll just tell you one more, and another memory that I had of my childhood. I remember uh, my brother and I. It was around Thanksgiving, so we were playing football, with a couple of dudes in a field, and I remember a commotion breaks out in the street, and then one of the dudes I knew, he lived in our neighborhood. He was actually had friends with my oldest brother at one point, and I just remember him and this guy got into this commotion, and the one thing that I would say is during that time in that particular neighborhood, anytime I saw someone say or dared someone to do something, the thing would always happen, right? So in this particular day, he was Pat in a commotion. He yelled at the dude. The dude pulled out a gun, and then he started saying, kill me, kill me. And then the guy raised the gun. It was like point blank range, and he pulled the trigger and the gun jammed, right? And then after that, Pat was still saying, kill me, kill me, kill me. And then the guy was like, oh man, the gun jammed, the gun jammed. He's trying to unjam the gun, and he pulls it up again to his head and pulls the trigger, and then the gun jammed again. So I think that was definitely a life-changing moment for me, because I've seen people very differently. I've seen them at their worst, and I fully know the capabilities of people, whereas a lot of other people don't have sort of experiences.
So out of all these experiences that you've had, how does that affect the way you raise our children, and what do you most want to protect them from? Something that you experienced that you want to make sure that they never have to experience?
I mean, the one that I say I want to protect them from the most is, there's several, because I've seen a lot of different things. The first one is preparing them to know how to defend themselves. I had to learn how to fight on the fly, and unfortunately I had a lot of practice, and I remember this was one of the big turning moments for me. I was in second grade, and I walked into a bathroom, and then two kids walked in behind me, and out of nowhere they start jumping me, and I don't know what's going on. I'm slipping. I'm trying to fight, but I'm disoriented, and I remember at the end they flung me, and then I hit my head really hard in the back of the bottom of the sink, and I just remember just sitting there, and I was so mad, and I was starting to cry, and I was, oh man.
And this was just because they were a different nationality, or it was a different street in the neighborhood? Well,
It was just because I was Haitian. Yeah, it was just because I wasn't one of them. So that one definitely resonates with me, because just teaching my kids how to defend themselves, and be ready to defend themselves at any point is something that I feel strongly about. But another one that I feel strongly about is protecting them sexually. So being exposed to hookers on the street, people having sex in corners and different things like that. And then also being exposed to, pornography at a very early age. I saw kind of what that did to not just me, but the people around me. So protecting them from that is something that it's, very, very important to me as well.
and overall, just trying to keep them innocent as long as
Just
possible.
try to just keep their innocence intact. Just keep their innocence intact. Allow the kids, not allow them to not to have to fight or be exposed to certain things. Has always been something very important to me. I think the good thing is, because I've seen such a different upbringing, I can kind of see how some of these people and some of these experiences affected people later, right? And where are these people at now that were in these neighborhoods with me? And the reality is, a lot of them aren't dead or in jail or deported or not in a great place, or they entered, foster care, something like that. So I definitely struggled a lot as probably here, I struggle to read, struggle to learn the language. My parents only spoke Creole, so they couldn't help me with the language and help me many activities. So I had to learn how to do a lot of things on my own. So I fell back in school. I was in dropout prevention. That's the bad kids, right? So, but in those experiences, a lot of my friends were from backgrounds that looked very similar to me. They had a lot of experiences that looked very similar to me. A lot of group home kids, a lot of foster kids that are clearly struggling and clearly also um, you could see that they were unkept, right? So there's a very distinct smell, like a smell of like urine, or when you see kids and they're wearing the same clothes and stuff like that, over and over. And I remember, kids would pick on them and stuff like that. But those were my friends. Those are the type of kids I grew up with. So it later it made sense.
Like clearly planted a seed that, created the passion that you have now.
Yeah. So and it goes to why we do what we do now in foster care, because when I pay attention to some of the people that had it the worst, it was them, right? It was the kids around me that were even in more unstable position than we were. I would say we grew up in poverty, but we were very rich. I watched my parents come from Haiti, and my parents were givers, right? They were Christians, and they truly lived it. So I would always watch them doing for people, going to church, and my dad would give you the shirt off your back. But then I would also see, outside of the home, something very, very different. So my normal was very distorted, and that's important for me to share because it allows me to kind of fully know and understand the type of environment these foster kids are typically coming in from, right? So what are the types of things that they're seeing or experiencing? Really allows me to kind of connect, with their story.
Yeah, so your faith in your family structure was really the positive of your childhood. Do you have a memory in all those struggles? Do you have a positive memory or a favorite memory?
I would say my favorite memories came from the summers. We weren't allowed to be outside much. We would just stay in the house, all summer and play video games. So the whole day, right? So from the morning till night, we would just play video games all day. And that's probably the best part of my childhood. Yeah.
And how would you say, seeing that family structure and the faith that they had, how would you say that helped you as a family, you specifically, get out of that environment?
What do you mean?
Well, clearly you're doing much better. You didn't end up in jail or dead.
Yeah.
You're thriving. You're a business owner. Your mother has a house now. How, as a family, did you all work to support each other and get out of that environment?
So I would say just a couple of ways. One, my mom didn't allow me to have any friends, so that actually is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because she was definitely trying to protect me from the environment, and she didn't want me. She always says she wanted me making my own decisions and making sure that I'm not following the crowd or doing some of the activities that was just right outside. So that was good too. But I also because I watched the way that my parents would move and provide for people that was less fortunate and stuff like that. I just remember uh, we were just so poor, and part of how we made it is because we're used to working and operating on less. And I would see my dad doing these things for people and providing, and they would do a lot of regifting, and the regifting wasn't. They just didn't need it, So they would get something, and they would just they would be like, someone else needs this more, right? And I just remember they used to get me so upset, and I remember I was just so mad one day, when I approached my dad, and I was just like, just being a kid, you're doing all of this for these people, and this and that. We don't have nothing for ourselves, and we could be using some of this stuff, for ourselves, and we don't even have anything. And that day, he dropped the biggest boulder on me that I remember to this day. And he said to me, Sam, this is what God tells us to do, right? And that resonated with me because I just remember I was still upset, and I walked away, and even more confused now than ever, on what that really means. But it just kind of showed me it doesn't matter what your environment is, if you're connected to, your relationship with God and you're intentional with how you do things, I really consider them very rich, right?
You were considered poor for this country, but compared to what they've seen in Haiti, I'm sure your poor was still very rich and well off compared to what they were coming from.
It
And you were only 2, right, when you came here?
Yeah.
So you don't remember.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have that perspective.
It is hard to have that perspective. What type of conditions that they really came from. So that's part of my story. You'll get more and more of my story, as we go. I'll reference a lot of different situations that I have perspective of. And I have a wide range of experiences. So I think it allowed me to also really channel some of these experiences that I've had to jump through hoops, to be able to kind of walk our foster kids, through, because they come from some challenging environments, and we're kind of dealing with some questions now. I think everybody kind of want to know where they're from, what their story is about, and we're getting peppered with questions. We'll save that for another episode, but it's unique and enlightening. So,
But not just the kids that come to us, obviously, it gives you the perspective to understand their parents. Because ideally, in fostering, the goal is reunification, and in a perfect world, the kids would be back with their mom or their dad, and we'd like to help support them in any way, trying to get a solid footing so that they can be able to do that, which is what happened with our first placement. They're thriving and doing great. But you do understand some of the struggles that the parents are going through and have gone through to get to the point where now their children are in care. So.
Yeah, the perspective that I'll share that most people don't get is you may see these parents that they don't have their act together. It's hard for them to do certain things and put certain things in place, but they are functioning, operating within their normal, right? Their normal is a very traumatic experience, kind of like some of the ones that I described to you. So I have that perspective, and where I'm lucky is I can kind of see through that, so I can kind of communicate and kind of bridge a gap as to why these certain things look like that. But yeah, so thank you for adding that, because that is important. Yeah. So. Thank you for joining us today. If you feel value in this content, look forward to more information and videos like this. And if you haven't already, click click the subscribe button. Have a good day.